Hey guys, Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer. We talk about music, books, and occasionally other things. And today, we're going to be talking about the books that I read in January. I'm going to be talking about these books in order in which I read them. There's 5 of them. And let's get started with The Blue by Lucy Clark. This is a book that I haven't heard anyone else on BookTube talk about, which is a real shame because this book is just stone perfect. It's a thriller, so I won't go into too much detail on the plot, but I will say that it's a thriller, it takes place on a boat, but then one of the crew members goes missing, and the Knights of Fun turn sinister. So, yeah. That's all I'll say about the plot. But, seriously though, this book is excellent. The characters are all super memorable, and while a lot of them are deeply flawed, I found myself at least understanding all of their motives, which is kind of what matters. I also loved the atmosphere of this. It starts out as just a fun story about some people traveling around on a boat, being free, and then it turns sinister, and just the whole ocean atmosphere is amazing. I hear this author has a bunch of books that are set on the ocean and are thrillers, so I may have to look into that. I also love that all the plot twists made sense and I did not see any of them coming. Seriously, I was not expecting the ending at all. Everything about this book is great, and I give it a 10 out of 10. Up next is Auschwitz, True Tales from a Grotesque Land by Sarah Nomberg Perzitik. I'm probably butchering that name, but this is a memoir by a Holocaust survivor. And man, if you want to think considerably less of your fellow humans, this is the book to read. However, I will say that I enjoyed this book. I like the way it was structured. It's basically a series of vignettes relating to certain people and situations that the author encountered while in Auschwitz. I love that the personalities of the people that she was describing really came through. And I like that a lot of them are portrayed as quite morally gray. After all, a lot of the people she describes at times helped the Nazis with what they were doing, and at times just stood by and did nothing as people were slaughtered in front of them. However, it's portrayed in such a way that you can kind of understand why they did it. After all, they were in extreme conditions at the time, and who are we to judge them considering we've never been in that situation, thank God. Yeah, this is actually an interesting perspective to get, because Sarah Nomberg Perzitik actually worked in the infirmary at Auschwitz, where a number of gruesome medical experiments took place. And yeah, she had to stand by and watch as a lot of people were killed. And at times, she was even kind of complicit in what was going on. But at the same time, it's hard to blame her. My one problem with this book is the writing can get a bit dry at points. Still, just the descriptions alone make this thing something special. 9 out of 10. Now we have To Kill a Mockingbird. This is a classic, and I don't think most of you need an introduction to this, but I'll give one anyway. To Kill a Mockingbird is a classic set in 1930s Alabama about a black man who is wrongly accused of raping a white woman, and the lawyer who is tasked with defending said black man. And it's told from the perspective of the lawyer's children, namely his youngest daughter, or his youngest child, Scout. And also, there's some stuff about his son, Jem, as well. The atmosphere of this book is incredible. I love the southern country setting, and how immersive the writing was, and Atticus, the lawyer, is just an incredible character. I love all the decisions he has to make, and just how he deals with things. The two children characters were a bit bland, but I honestly thought they were both pretty cool. I like that they were both very curious. Kinda reminds me of myself at that age. But still, I've seen this kind of child character done before, so. The plot did drag a bit, I will say that, and there is some slightly outdated language in here, since, it's set in the 1930s and published in 1960. But the premise alone makes this a great book. Also, the ending is beautiful. 8 out of 10. Now for my generation's answer to Kill a Mockingbird, The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This one I actually liked better than To Kill a Mockingbird, mainly because, well, it's written by an actual black person and contains significantly less problematic elements. This one tells the story of a young black girl who lives in the hood, but goes to this rich kid prep school with a bunch of white kids. And at first she kind of tries to keep the two worlds separate, but that becomes harder after her childhood friend gets shot at the hands of a police officer while unarmed. For a young adult book, this is surprisingly gritty and realistic. I love the description of the neighborhood and the gangs that live in this neighborhood, and I especially love the plot, even if this is yet another book that kind of dragged a little bit at places. And I love the main character and her friends. In addition to being unusually gritty for a young adult book, this is also unusually complex for a young adult book. It tackles the fact that sometimes people who claim to be not racist occasionally do racist stuff, and it tackles the dilemma of both black cops and gang members perfectly, and it tackles the difference between what is right and what is easy. And it does all of this while keeping to the young adult theme of discovering yourself. Beautiful book, 9 out of 10. And finally, we have My Sister the Serial Killer. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce this author's name. You can see it right there. This is a book written by a Nigerian author that's actually set in Nigeria, and it's a thriller, so I won't say too much about the plot, but it's basically about this woman whose sister is a serial killer, and she keeps being tasked with hiding the bodies. It's dark, and the ending is incredibly depressing. Which, I know some people didn't like that ending because it was so depressing, but honestly, I thought it fit the book. The suspense in this book was great, and while neither of our main characters are particularly likable at all, I did find them interesting just because, well, one of them is obviously mentally ill, and the other one is just super complex, even if she is awful. For a book this dark and gritty, everything works really well. It's not as good as The Blue, the atmosphere wasn't as immersive, and the writing was kind of basic, but I'd still give this a 9 out of 10. And that's my reading wrap-up. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Morgan the Rebellious Reviewer, and I'm out.